For nearly half a century, one terrifying truth echoed across Eurasia. The Mongols do not lose. Entire kingdoms vanished after facing them. Cities burned, armies collapsed, and then, on one single day in 1260, that legend was shattered. Fighting the Mongols meant one thing: extinction. Cities that resisted were wiped off the map. Armies were annihilated in hours. Kings surrendered without drawing a sword. By the mid-1200s, the Mongols had become history's ultimate nightmare. Welcome back to Dusted Dynasties, where we uncover the moments that shattered empires and reshaped the world. Today's story isn't about Mongol conquest, it's about their first true failure in open battle, a defeat so shocking that it broke the myth of Mongol invincibility forever. This moment didn't just decide one battle, it changed the fate of the Middle East, halted one of the most feared armies in human history, and proved that even the greatest empire on earth could bleed. This is the story of the Battle of Ain Jalut, the day the Mongols finally lost. By the 13th century, the Mongol Empire was unlike anything the world had ever seen. Founded by Genghis Khan and expanded by his sons and grandsons, it stretched from the shores of the Pacific Ocean to the borders of Europe. They conquered China, they obliterated Central Asia, they crushed Eastern Europe and burned cities to ash. No army could match their speed, no walls could stop them, no king could intimidate them. Mongol soldiers were raised for war. Every man was a skilled horseman and archer. Their armies communicated with flags, drums, and horns, allowing complex maneuvers at full gallop. Their bows could pierce armor from incredible distances, but perhaps their deadliest weapon was fear. The Mongols mastered psychological warfare long before the term existed. They spread terror deliberately. Refugees fleeing Mongol attacks carried horrifying stories that caused entire cities to surrender without a fight. Militarily, they were years ahead of their enemies. They used feigned retreats to lure enemy armies into deadly traps, followed by lightning-fast cavalry strikes that shattered formations before opponents could react. Their vast intelligence networks mapped enemy weaknesses in advance, and they even employed skilled siege engineers borrowed from China and Persia to overcome fortified cities that once seemed impregnable. Time after time, enemies made the same mistake, underestimating Mongol tactics, and every time, the Mongols won. In 1258, the Mongols delivered one of the greatest shocks in medieval history: the destruction of Baghdad. Once the center of learning and power in the Islamic world, the city fell after a brutal siege. The Abbasid Caliphate ended in blood and fire. Libraries were destroyed, scholars killed. The Muslim world was traumatized. It seemed inevitable that Egypt would be next. At this point, the Mongols appeared truly unstoppable. But history turned on an unexpected event. In 1259, the great Khan Menkae died during a campaign in China. Mongol law demanded that the empire's leaders return to choose a successor. This forced Hulagu Khan, the conqueror of the Middle East, to withdraw the majority of his forces eastward. Still confident, he left behind a smaller army under his trusted general Kitbuqa. Kitbuqa was experienced, fearless, and utterly loyal. He had never known defeat. Neither had his army. While the Mongols regrouped, Egypt prepared for war. The Mamluks were elite slave soldiers, purchased young and trained relentlessly for combat. They lived for battle. Unlike feudal armies, they were professionals, disciplined, heavily armored, and highly skilled cavalrymen. Leading them was Sultan Qutuz, himself a former slave, and his most brilliant commander, Baybars, a tactician who studied Mongol warfare closely. When Mongol envoys arrived in Cairo demanding surrender, Qutuz made a bold, shocking choice. He executed them and displayed their heads publicly. It was a declaration that Egypt would not kneel. In 1260, the Mamluk army marched north to confront the Mongols. On the way, they passed through Crusader territory. In a rare moment of cooperation, the Crusaders allowed them safe passage. Even they understood that Mongol domination would mean the end of everyone. The two armies finally met in the Jezreel Valley, at a place called Ain Jalut, translated as the Spring of Goliath. It was an ominous name. Kitbuqa attacked first. Mongol horse archers surged forward, firing volleys of arrows while riding at full speed. It was the opening move that had destroyed countless armies before. The Mamluks responded and then retreated. To Kitbuqa, this looked like victory already unfolding. The Mongols had seen this reaction dozens of times before. He ordered a full pursuit. The retreat was a trap. Baybars had carefully positioned Mamluk forces behind hills and narrow terrain. As the Mongols advanced deeper into the valley, the signal was given. Drums thundered. Horns echoed across the battlefield. Mamluk cavalry slammed into the Mongols from both flanks. Arrows rained down. The terrain robbed the Mongols of their mobility, their greatest advantage. For the first time, the Mongols were fighting an enemy that matched their speed and tactical intelligence. The fighting was savage. Kitbuqa personally led counterattacks, refusing to withdraw even as his army collapsed around him. Chroniclers describe him fighting with legendary courage, determined to die rather than retreat. Eventually, he was surrounded and captured. When brought before Sultan Qutuz, Kitbuqa refused to kneel. He warned that the Mongols would return, that their vengeance would be terrible. Qutuz had him executed immediately. The Mongol army broke. The unthinkable had happened. The defeat at Ain Jalut sent shockwaves across the world. For the first time, a Mongol field army had been destroyed and the myth of invincibility was broken. The Mongol expansion was permanently slowed. The Mongols would fight the Mamluks for decades afterward, but they never again achieved unstoppable dominance in the Middle East. Egypt was saved. Islamic civilization in the region survived. History changed course. The Battle of Ain Jalut stands as one of history's most important turning points. It proved that no empire, no matter how powerful, is truly unstoppable. On one day in 1260, the Mongols faced an enemy who understood them, outthought them, and defeated them. And from that moment on, the world knew the Mongols could bleed. If you enjoyed this deep dive into one of history's most dramatic moments, like the video, subscribe to Dusted Dynasties, and comment below. Do you think the Mongols could have conquered Egypt if Hulagu had stayed? Thanks for watching. See you in the next chapter of history.